Talk about gaps today. This is Lisa from True North Homeschool Academy, and this is a question we get all the time. If I homeschool, my kids will have educational gaps. But I want to take a load off. Everybody has gaps, whether they went to public, private, or homeschool. So I'm going to tell a story about my personal life. I actually, as a child, we moved every 2 years, so we went to different schools throughout my entire childhood. I transferred in high school, so I went to two high schools, and so anyway, I just had a lot of change in my own academic life as a kid. And when you move around a lot, you miss a lot of things because they might have taught it in grade 3 at the school you're going to, but they don't teach it until grade 4 at the school you're leaving, and so you just miss information. The other thing is I have an auditory processing disorder, so if like it's really hard for me to hear in crowded rooms and to really understand things because my brain doesn't discriminate between noises, so I tend to hear all the noises. But I'm not sure often what's being said. Not often, but I'm not always sure what's being said. That's a better way to put it. So I've learned some coping techniques and skills and really working on that. But as a kid, nobody knew what an auditory processing disorder was. And so I just made the best of it. Thankfully, I was a really good reader. I was a really early reader, and I got by that way. But my point about the gaps is when I was, after I had gone to my graduate program, I wrote a master's thesis, and I wrote a 90-page master's thesis legitimately not knowing that there were 8 parts of speech. I just didn't ever learn it. And so that might be considered a major gap. Now, you can definitely get through life without knowing grammar. Now that I do know grammar, now that I've learned it, and I've taught writing for years, there's so much value in understanding grammar. But my point is that all of us have gaps. All of us have challenging situations and maybe some disabilities or some things that we have to figure out workarounds to. So we can just assume we're all going to have gaps. So if you're listening to this and you're worried about leaving gaps in your kids' education, let me take a load off of you. It's going to happen. There, don't you feel better? Your kids are going to have gaps. They're going to have learning gaps. They're going to have life skill gaps. There's just not enough hours in the day to teach your kid everything that they need to do and know and learn before they leave your home. And not only that, they're going to go out into an environment that you might not have known they're going to go into. So just take some pressure off yourself. Your kids are going to have gaps. That is no reason not to change your educational opportunities for your kids. It's no reason not to homeschool. The reason why I think homeschooling leaves fewer gaps is because we see our kids, we are teaching one-on-one or one-on-5 if you have a bigger family, maybe one-on-12 if you have a big family, but the classroom environment is so much smaller. We know our kids, we understand their personalities and who they are, and so we can really personalize the education to fit their needs, their skills, their natural abilities, the things that they're challenged with, and that makes our educational opportunities as homeschoolers and those of us who are reimagining education so much more specific to the person. When should you worry about gaps? I really believe after 30 years of homeschooling and decades of writing and speaking about education, writing a master's thesis on it, the whole bit, that there are 2 times when you really need to worry about gaps in your kids' education with the idea that your kids are going to have gaps. Number 1 is with literacy, and that's language literacy, and number 2 is numeric literacy. So language literacy is the ability to read. Now, there are a lot of people right now who can read, but they are functionally illiterate. Functionally illiterate is being able to read at a 5th grade level. So if your student can read at a 5th grade level, they're functionally literate. They're technically literate, but can they understand what they're reading? Can they tell you back what they're reading? Can they write about what they're reading? We don't want to stop our kids at functional literacy. We want them to be completely literate. We want them to be able to do lit analysis. We want them to be able to write a research paper and write a persuasive essay and talk persuasively and all those things. So while functional literacy is a low benchmark and we need to meet it, we need to go above and beyond that. So if your kids have hit a roadblock with their language acquisition learning. You need to slow down, step back, really evaluate. Maybe it is the curriculum, maybe it's a learning disability or challenge, maybe it's something else, but it's time to evaluate. And again, a lot of homeschoolers feel like tests are verboten in the homeschool world, but if you need a diagnostic tool, then get one. We offer the Performance Series at True North Homeschool Academy. It tests by grade level and individual ability. That's why I like it. It also gives course objectives, so you can understand where other kids their grade level are performing at. It's just a diagnostic tool. It doesn't say my kid is like this broken thing. No, it just says, hey, these are the areas we need to work on, and here's some ways to handle that. Really great tool. As parents, we help our kids build their own toolbox. So if you need tools, equip yourself so you can help your kid. Okay, so language literacy. These are gaps that you need to think about and fill. Don't leave them go. Don't just say, we'll get to it later. Now, sometimes you do, sometimes you want to just take a step back. I get that and come back to it later. But I would say don't leave it for 2 to 3 years. I mean, there's just different schools of thought on that. But I would say if you feel like your kid is behind, and again, this is really controversial in the homeschool world, there's no behind in the homeschool world. Look, I talk to so many moms and I say, does anybody know that their kid's behind? Parents raise their hand. I said, do you not worry about it? No, they all worry about it because as parents, as moms, we intuitively understand when our kids are behind. And sometimes we just know that that behind is going to really hold them back in life. So if you feel like your kid is behind and you want to get some tools to help them and you're not sure where to turn, start with the Performance Series test, start with academic advising at True North Homeschool Academy. We've worked with all sorts of challenges and learning disorders and disabilities and challenges, as well as doubly gifted and all the things. So if you're not sure where to go, it'd be a great first place to start with the Performance Series and even that 15-minute free academic advising appointment. Okay, so if you're worried that your kids are behind, there actually can be some behind. Because if your kids don't have the skills that they need to go to the next level, and by next level, I mean, here's some developmental tasks academically. 5-year-olds go through a big shift. Third grade, fourth grade, another big shift. Middle school, big shift. High school, big shift. So those big shifts mean your kids are learning different skills and different tools. And if they are not able to make those shifts, then the next level is going to be really challenging for them. And if you keep trying to push through, they're going to get more lost, they're going to get discouraged, and they might give up. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so language literacy is the number one place where if there's gaps, you want to just slow down and kind of evaluate. What are the gaps about? Numeric literacy, another thing. What are the gaps about? So what is numeric literacy? Well, numeric literacy means that your kids understand numbers, basic ordering of numbers, first, second, third, fourth, which numbers come first, what do those symbols represent, those kind of things, and then the basic math functions, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? As they get into 5th and 6th grade, you also want to add decimals, fractions, and percents, long division. Things get a little bit more complicated by 8th grade. Now, this is typical. By 8th grade, they should be doing some basic pre-algebra. That means substituting a letter for a number, and then algebra, geometry, and higher math. If your kids don't understand multiplication well, if they haven't mastered it, if they don't own it, algebra will be horrible. Because they're going to have to count on their fingers. 7, 14, 21, 28. They're going to have to sing the song instead of solving the problem and moving on. And algebra has so many moving parts that they have to slow down for some basic math functions. It's just going to be miserable. It's going to take too long to do every problem. So if you hear people say, hey, they can Google it, you don't need to memorize math functions. If you want them to do algebra, they do need to memorize math functions. Look, this whole meme, I haven't used algebra yet today, so what did it matter? What it mattered is you're teaching your kids critical thinking skills. You're teaching them abstract reasoning. You're teaching them to be able to think abstractly about the world and the universe. This goes to logic. It is critical thinking skills. It's the ability to communicate complex ideas. So algebra is a very important math, in my opinion, not necessarily for the math. I am not a math person. I enjoy math. I like it. It's pretty easy for me, but teaching it is really difficult for me. I'm not sure where that all happened, but my point is I'm not a mathematician. However, I use critical thinking skills and abstract reasoning on the daily, and you as an adult probably do too. So don't overlook the importance of algebra because it takes your kids to a different level of reasoning. And I think it's just so very important. To get to algebra, your kids need to have those other developmental numeric tasks under their belt and they need to have mastered them. So mastery is a real thing if you're in a skill building kind of subject area like English and like math. And so these are the two areas that I think if you have gaps, you need to stop, evaluate, and assess. If you're not sure how to do that, check with us. Our 15-minute free academic advising can help you with that. You can absolutely purchase the hour-long advising. We're here to help you and to come alongside of you, and we have a lot of experience with this. So we'd love to talk with you about it if you're just not sure what to do next. And also the performance series test, which again is a really great, simple diagnostic tool. You can pause it, you can retake it, you can take one subject, you can take all four, but a really great tool for you to just understand where your kid's at. And if you've been in education or human development or you just get academia, you might not need a test. You might be able to just evaluate them. You might just be able to go, you know, you're reading really well. You're reading at a fifth grade level. And what does reading at a fifth grade level even mean? It means you can read a story to yourself and understand it and tell somebody else's story. It also means you can read the story out loud without stumbling all over yourself and your readers are not, or your listeners are not cringing, right? You're reading the story, it's enjoyable. People want you to keep reading and they want to find out what's happening next in the story. You started to understand some basic lit analysis. What's the plot about? What's the theme? Who are the major characters? And all those kind of things. And then, of course, you're going to build from there. And that's a little bit different than writing. Writing at a fifth grade level would be to be able to write a simple 3-paragraph paper. I'm not a big fan of book reports. I like narration personally. That's what we always did in our family is narration more than book reports. But we did really go after that 3-paragraph essay and then of course build to 5-paragraph and then longer essays, persuasive, compare and contrast, etc. And we offer so many different essay classes at True North Homeschool Academy. Writing with Confidence is a really great class as an overview writing class, and they do research papers as well. Great skill for your kids. A research papers really bring in both sides of the brain. It's very analytical, but it's also creative. And so I love that Angie Farrell teaches that class. It's so very important for our kids to understand how to gather information, distill it, and give it back to somebody. And that is a big part of language literacy, right? So will your kids have gaps? Yes. Yes, your kids will have gaps. It's fine. They're going to go and be successful adults. If your kids have really huge academic gaps and you're not sure how to fill them, we'd love to chat with you. If you're not even sure how to evaluate them, check out the performance series test and again, our 15-minute academic advising, but we'd love to hear from you. Let me know what gaps have been funny in your life. Because, you know, one of the things as homeschoolers, you know, our kids can tend to be a little bit more sheltered. And then they go out in the world and they're like, wow, I never knew that. And it could be something really simple or basic, and yet they've just never been exposed to it. So as homeschoolers, they're going to have gaps all over the place, and that's really fine. They're going to be just fine. They're going to be fine. So if you're worried about, if you're not, well, let me just put it this way. If you're not homeschooling because you're worried that your kids are going to have gaps, just take a load off. Your kids are going to have gaps. It's not that big of a deal. They're going to be fine. The main thing is teaching them how to learn and to have that enthusiasm and spark and desire to learn. That's going to be more important to their life than if they have gaps. If you can really spark that sense of curiosity and that lifelong love of learning, that is going to be far more important than filling every single gap that you might possibly be able to fill in their lives. And listen, you're not going to be able to because the world is changing at such a rapid pace, right? Like technology is it's just going so fast, and we're becoming a global community. There's just so many different things that are changing right now. So you're not going to be able to fill all the gaps. Teach your kids that beautiful love of learning that will last them throughout their life, and then they'll be able to pivot and fill all the gaps for themselves. And that's really one of the great things about homeschooling is that we can take the time that our kids need to really just sit with things and to learn deeply and to follow bunny trails and to really dive deep into areas of interest. That's just one of the best things about homeschooling, in my opinion. So All right, you guys, gaps, you're going to have them. Don't worry about them. Make sure you've got language literacy and numeric literacy under your belt and under your kid's belt. And let us know if we can come alongside you as you homeschool. And again, check out enrollment. The 24-25 enrollment is open. Registration is wide open. We'd love to have you in classes with us in the fall. Our teachers are so excited to be coming alongside you as homeschoolers to help your kids learn how to study and grow and develop not just subject matter skills, excuse me, but soft skills like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. All right, you guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll be back later. Bye.